Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, a Friday edition, a listen to this edition, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of 670 The Score. How you feeling, Dan?
I'm feeling great, but the better question is, how are you feeling? I have been let known to me that you are celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday, Mark Grote.
Thank you. I am celebrating my Urlacher birthday, so I don't have to say it. You can figure it out. If you don't know, then you just don't know.
Those who don't know have probably stumbled on the wrong podcast here.
Yeah, you probably stumbled on the wrong podcast or have not seen that the majority of the city of Chicago owns that particular Urlacher jersey.
You're either on the wrong podcast or you're 11 and you're still trying to get yourself up to speed with Bears history. And for that, we welcome you in and we apologize for the occasionally foul language, and we'll just continue on our way.
Yeah, we will try to do our best here. Yes, I've already been censored a couple times today before I even came on the air. So yeah, things happen in live radio. Things happen. You say things that you're not sure if you're allowed to say. On a podcast, I'd be allowed to say it, but not on the radio, apparently, is what I'm learning. By the way, Dan, do you know I brought up Urlacher? Urlacher and Devin Hester will be at the Bears game on Saturday night. I imagine they'll probably maybe put a microphone in their hands at some point in time to get the crowd going. I haven't really read the details because we've kind of been worried about other things for this game. But I honestly, Dan, I cannot wait now that it's Friday and we could release a little bit and relax a little bit. I can't wait for all pomp and circumstance, all the stuff, the peripheral stuff, which cannot be underestimated, and how jacked up Soldier Field is going to be on Saturday night.
I have big plans to get there early just to be able to get that car parked and then have the opportunity to just feel the electricity that we've been anticipating all week. I do think before the 18 opener against the Eagles, I think it was Urlacher, Singletary, and Butkus that were waving the towels around in the end zone before kickoff, and that really got everybody stirred up. So I would imagine they would have something similar planned for Urlacher and Hester. It looks like there's going to be orange rally towels on Saturday night at Soldier Field. So we'll be looking forward to taking that in with our eyes, our ears, and every other sense that we've got available to us.
This is an edition of Listen to This on the Take the North podcast. So this is a day in which Dan and I collect audio from the week. Maybe you've heard it. Maybe you haven't heard it. We like to save a little something for you guys when we do these editions. So we have four very distinct pieces of audio that we would like to bring you on Take the North today. And Weedsy, if you don't mind, I'd love it if you started us off today.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you the first piece of audio from starting linebacker Tremaine Edmunds. He is one of the defensive players who has experience in the playoffs. Not only does Tremaine Edmunds have experience in the playoffs from his time in Buffalo, he has felt some of the worst anguish that you can imagine when playoff losses come knocking on your door. Chicago knows what that feeling of the double doink felt like. Tremaine knows what it feels like to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime after holding a lead with less than 20 seconds to go in a playoff game. So he was obviously part of that crazy game several years back that ended up leading to the rules change in the NFL, where both teams were then allowed to possess the ball in overtime, because after scoring what they thought was a game-winning touchdown, the Buffalo Bills, they ended up seeing Patrick Mahomes go down the field and lead a game-tying field goal drive and then follow with a game-winning touchdown drive. Tremaine Edmunds was part of that loss, and he still feels the scars of that. He can also speak to the electricity in the environment. Here's a little bit of the back and forth between Tremaine and I from earlier this week.
You've got playoff experience, a lot of it. How do you describe to the guys about that don't have it, what we're walking into Saturday night?
Yeah, I think, just the small details that we talk about, day in, day out. Those things really come to light in the playoffs. Obviously it's about calming emotions down too, because obviously everybody's going to be anxious to get out there and play, but just, do the things that got you to that moment, do the little things and, go out there and make the play when it gets in. So
there are guys that are retired 10 years beyond playing in the league, and they can still feel the scars of playoff losses. I know you've had a couple that I'm sure don't heal, right? Particularly that one, right? It sticks with you.
A couple, not just that one, but I think anytime you lose in the playoffs, just knowing that that's the end of your year, man. They all are scars. Some hurt more than others, but anytime you lose, there's lessons that you can take from it. But like you said, no matter how old you get, you're always gonna kind of remember those losses. So you can. It's always experiences to learn from.
That wild one with with Kansas City. How long did it take you to get yourself just back, to normal?
Yeah, that one took a while, to be honest with you, man. That one took a while just because it hurt bad. That one hurt bad. But like I said, all the losses hurt, man. Just when you're that close and, you can't get the job done, I mean, it sit with you for a while.
How do you describe a playoff win? You've obviously had a few of those too.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You know what I mean? It's just having that feeling, knowing that, you still one of few teams that still left in the dance. I mean, it's a feeling that, you got to experience it to really understand how it feels. But, I mean, it's just let you know all the accomplishments, but, you just got to take it 1 week at a time.
Grote, the pain of a playoff loss can be everlasting, and the Bears are trying to push that off for as long as humanly possible and experience some of the delight that Tremaine talked about at the end. But it just reminds you of what we're going to be feeling in one way, shape, or form at the end of Saturday night. Is going to be the city's either going to be on the highest of highs or the lowest of lows, and that's what Saturday is all about. It's why it's fun.
There's a Red Hot Chili Peppers lyric that is going through my head right now, Dan, and that is, I don't want to ever feel like I did that day. I don't want to ever feel like I did that day. You know that song?
I sure do. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Am I doing it justice right there?
Right out of the 90s. Yeah, you only did it justice when you decided to sing it karaoke style, which was nice for the entire audience. But yeah, I mean, take me to the bridge downtown.
Yes. Nobody wants to feel that way. It's so funny. We had Mason Crosby on the score today, and he managed to casually reference 2018 and the loss to the Packers in 2011. And I'm like, man, don't bring that back. I don't want to ever feel like I did that day. And it's just like nobody wants the yuck feel. Somebody's going to have the yuck feel, whether it's the Bears or the Packers. There's no doubt about that.
I vividly remember walking into the Soldier Field locker room after what were we calling it yesterday? The twice ding kick from Cody Parkey, which we'll get into more in a few minutes. Right, I believe it had a different name than that, but we're not speaking that this week. Right. I just remember standing at Prince Mukamara's locker and him saying it's like you're running on a treadmill and then someone pulls the plug. And like you just have that visual as he says that of getting launched off a treadmill, right? Like,
yeah.
And so that's kind of what this is, right? And over the next few weeks, so many teams are going to go through that. They're going to hit that trap door. The bottom of their season is going to fall out, and that feeling of free fall and emotional anguish is going to be very real. Again, you're trying to hold that off for as long as humanly possible, and maybe forever if you can get to the final Sunday in February. But certainly a good reminder, again, from one of those guys who's had extensive playoff experience in Tremaine Edmunds, that there are two sides to this. There's that glee, and then there's that agony.
Yeah, and he's, in terms of the experience, he's a key guy because there's not a lot of key guys anyway, that have a lot of playoff experience. So I hope Edmonds is leaned on by anybody who cares to lean on him, whether it's been throughout this week or leading up to the game and certainly during the game. Dan, we were both part of a conversation at Halas Hall on Thursday with DJ Moore, the Bears' fine wide receiver. Of course, DJ Moore did not really make an impact in the most previous game against Detroit. We did not see him in the locker room afterwards, so it had been a while since we have heard from him. So I put together a little best of DJ Moore here on Listen to This. I invite you now to listen to this.
Jay, as a veteran, what do you tell the younger guys about handling a week like this?
Yeah, this is my first time in this thing too, so I'm just going with the flow, working hard. Everything is, you can tell everything has been amped up. Even our practice has been. So I mean, it's a lot of bugs, but like butterflies going around. But it's football at the end of the day, so we gotta go out there and execute.
You really seem to take pleasure in beating the Packers. It just seems to resonate from you. Can you talk a little about that? Why it means so much to you?
Why? Because they always chirping. It's always like some talking going on somewhere, somehow, during the game, before the game, always. And, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the rivalry, it speaks for itself, but the players that's on both sides on both teams right now, I think are pretty amped about this third matchup, and it's just getting out there, make it loud as possible.
Do you ever talk to the younger players about settling down in some of these big moments, these big games, emotionally?
No, because you can't. Why would you want to tell a lion not to go feast? Like, what? Like, you can't tell them that they can't go do something. So you just let them play free and just play fast at the end of the day.
The usual, very real approach from DJ Moore right there. And here are kind of on the same page when it comes to those Lions, as he said. You can't have anybody crowd surfing on the first play of the game, but you also don't want to dent the ferocity, the intensity before the game.
This is part of the playoff challenge. It's being able to do that in a way that's effective and you use your energy positively and not negatively. You and I talked on our walk out to the parking lot at House Hall on Thursday about how unique it is. Every conversation with DJ is a little bit unique for some reason. We really can't put our finger on it. Even at the outset, when he's asked about what he tells some of the younger players about playoff experience, and he can't even say, I don't know. He said, like, it's like a fifth grade way of saying, I don't know.
It was, by the way, on our walk to our cars yesterday, it's a lengthy walk from Hallis Hall to the remote lot where they have the media. Boy, we got to our cars, and that monsoon that everybody dealt with in the city of Chicago just hit. I mean, it could have been worse, Dan. It could have been like at the beginning of our walk, our journey to our cars.
I feel like you and I were about 15 yards from our respective cars when the skies opened up there, and it was like, whoa, this came fast, because it was just like a little mist as we were making our way down the long driveway and into the lot, and then all of a sudden it was dumping buckets, and I was like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm getting in here. See you
later. An hour and 30 minutes later, I made it back home to the city. Your drive, I know, is a little bit more manageable than mine, but that was a moment. And there could be some of that precip at Soldier Field, as a matter of fact, on Saturday night as well. I think there's snow and rain in the forecast, and a little bit chillier.
We'll see what that looks like, and certainly chillier than Friday here today, where it's sunny and there's a little bit of warmth in the air. Feels like spring is here. Maybe get the golf clubs out and dust those off, but probably don't use them for another 4 months. So anyway, it's a reminder.
What else we got here, Dan, on listening to this?
We've got an older piece of audio, and it's only a little bit more than a week old now, but it's Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle chiming in on the growing connection between his quarterback, Caleb Williams, and his head coach, Ben Johnson. I think it's been very notable to watch this evolve. Again, we've talked about it over the last few weeks where Caleb was very open and honest with us and saying that, back in the summertime, I felt like our relationship was fragile, and that he wasn't sure that Ben liked him. And then you get to a point where he's showing up for the, regular season finale wearing a replica jersey of his head coach's high school jersey, right? He's got the AC Reynolds Rocket jersey on with Ben's number, custom made, and was able to, show his obviously admiration and affection for what their relationship has become. But I think it has been a unique touch that Ben has had to use throughout this year to get the most out of Caleb, for Caleb to be ready to respond to what Ben was bringing to the table. And so a week ago, leading up to the Week 18 game with Detroit, both Deion Miller and I kind of asked Declan Doyle a couple questions about what that's been like to observe that growing bond. Here's a little bit of that exchange, which shed some light on that relationship.
The biggest thing is that we didn't just approach Caleb that way. We really approached everybody that way. And it was, it's a championship level standard, and we're not going to bend that to anybody, including, the quarterback or really anybody, or going from, our coaching staff to, whoever's in the building. We have an expectation about how we want to operate. And when you demand, of people, generally they want to rise to the occasion, especially guys that do have a growth mindset, that want to be the best. And those guys kind of flock to that. And Caleb is a great example of that. We certainly put a lot on his plate early. And there were times where it doesn't always look clean. And yet that's really where growth comes from is going out and, we might have failed at a practice in the spring, and yet that's the reason that we're here, because we're willing to get outside of our comfort zone, outside of our comfort level, and really put stress on everybody. We stress and rest, and then we grow, So that's been the biggest thing is we wanted to put stress on guys to try to get them to raise their level, and they were all very willing to do so.
Declan, it doesn't always look clean, but it doesn't always feel clean either. How did you see sort of Ben and Caleb navigate that together over the last 4 months of just being able to work through some of the tension that comes with that?
Yeah, I think that's a day-to-day thing. It's a little bit of, especially in the moment, controlling your emotions and understanding what the big picture is and what our goals are, and then kind of working backwards. Okay, if our goals are to be at this level, how do we get there today? How do we, is what happened today detrimental to that, or can we take this and can we learn from it? And I think that throughout the whole process, they've both taken really everything in stride. They've both been very open to communicating and trying to see the game through each other's eyes. And that's really what works is high levels of communication between the two of them, high levels of communication between the coaching staff and the players, and everybody trying to be on the same page so that when we get in big moments, the expectation is clear, they know what to do, and they can go out and play fast.
Mark, I've got several thoughts on that, but I'm curious, when you hear that piece of audio, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch of things, but I'd love him going back to the, checking levels of putting them in stressful situations, thinking about that from the beginning of the year. And it like kind of dawned on me. It was like, okay, putting Caleb Williams in stressful situations is an area in which, in theory, he thrives, right? Because isn't it stressful when the fourth quarter comes around and you're down by a touchdown? So it really reminded me, it's easy to sort of just breeze past that stuff from because it happened, it felt like 10 years ago is what training camp feels like to me right now. But it really hammered home to me that the Bears were, even if we couldn't figure out what was going on, and maybe we were overly critical, quite frankly, and I'm looking at myself, of Caleb Williams because of all they were throwing on his plate, it just really reminds me of what a diligent job and a correct job that this coaching staff did, including Declan Doyle, to get the offense to where it is imperfect, but definitely much more advanced than it was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and they were willing to go into the choppy seas, right, and just kind of keep themselves steady enough to survive that. The two things that I loved most about that was Declan sort of acknowledging openly that Caleb has this growth mindset, and with the growth mindset, you want to apply the challenge. And he said when you demand of people, they want to rise to the occasion. And I think that is true of Caleb, that he has responded to demands, and that's something that we were maybe questioning in the spring and summer on how Ben's intensity would ultimately register. And does it really knock you over, or does it motivate you? And I think it motivated Caleb more than it knocked him over. I think it probably did both at times. It looks like you had something to say on that front.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and like the other question that had not been answered, and I think it's been answered, is can you get through to this quarterback? Can you get through to Caleb Williams? Will he respect you? Will he follow in line with what? Because it didn't seem like, and maybe it wasn't Caleb's fault because of the coaching staff that was presented to him in his first year with the Bears. But it didn't seem like the direction was being followed, nor was the direction particularly good last year. So I think that this coaching staff has checked that box.
Yeah, and you earn trust through success, right? Like that's really the greatest way to earn trust is through success. And Caleb has been honest and saying, look, like when the plays work, then you say, okay, I'm going to do the exact thing that the next play calls for, because I understand that this play caller and this coach knows what he's doing from that standpoint. So the credibility aspect is there. The other thing that I loved there from Declan was talking about working from the big picture goals and then coming backwards. And I think with Ben and Caleb, their aims and their objectives are not written in pencil. It's written in Sharpie of what they want to be, both individually and collectively. And so when you put that out there, when you announce to the world that you are chasing the biggest of big in the NFL, and then you find a way to throw the car in reverse and go through the steps of the GPS to make your way to that ultimate destination. It's pretty cool to be able to kind of see it through that lens. I'm like, this is where we're trying to go. And so the reason this is so chaotic here in late July and early August is because we've set our destination here, and there's some bumpy roads to get there, but this is where we plan to go. And so that, I think that part of the whole thing has been cool too, of them being very clear about where they want to go, and then going step by step to get there.
There's a player on the Bears who may be given a chance to win the game on Saturday night, and he is the captain of the special teams. You had a little chit chat with Cairo Santos, Dan?
Yeah, the setup here is pretty easy. Number one, Cairo Santos is one of two players to play in the last Bears playoff game. Again, that was in New Orleans in 2020. Not a lot of fans in the stadium because of COVID. I think it was 3,000 announced attendance that day at the Superdome, a loss. So that's the starting point with Kyro. Kyro was also aware of the history here. We've talked about the twice ding here a couple times in the last few days, and a playoff game that didn't end with the best results for a kicker. And so I spent some time in his locker talking about a bunch of things. I'll set this up here this way as well, because in the summer I wrote a feature on Kyro about how much his game-winning kick to beat the Packers at Lambeau Field last January was, right? And like, so when you think about how much he took out of that kick and how much that meant, it snapped a 10-game losing streak. And you're like, man, he knows what Bears Packers means to George McCaskey, the McCaskey family, the city of Chicago, the Bears organization. And so he really wore that with a sense of pride. Well, that was a kick to finish a last place season. Now he might have an opportunity Saturday to kick the Bears into the next round of the playoffs with a victory over the rivals. So you can compare and contrast the stages there. But here's a little back and forth with the kicker, number 8, Cairo Santos.
You describe your eagerness for the playoff stage, just knowing what is this big time now.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, because it's been a long time since we've been to playoffs, and it's always a goal. But to be here at year 12 doing it, like, I'm actually really excited that it feels like week 22 for me. And like that playoff hype, like, it is a different environment, different level to the game for sure, but it still feels like it's another week, and I'm enjoying that I have these feels going into a game that we know it's big, but also it's feeling like it's just a normal game as well. So I'm excited to kind of go into the game with that level of calmness.
I woke up this morning thinking about our talk in August, and you talked about beating Green Bay last January, how that felt. That was to get a 5th win. This is a playoff game. I imagine like that part of the theater is fun too, right? Like,
absolutely, yeah. It's such a privilege to have earned this opportunity to play in a game where the whole country's gotten to see that the rivalry's back. The last 4 matchups we had against them, it's become probably the 4 best rivalry games in the last 2 years if you combine them. So that's something that we've worked and the Green Bay's worked to revive that, and then to do it at a playoff stage, it'll be a game that we'll remember for a long time.
The Sunday night game this last week, I mean, you have a little bit of empathy for Luke, where you're just like, oh shit, man, you know what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because I kind of view, like, especially Boswell is one of my closest friends, and I know he's in my opinion, he's the best kicker in the league, just because where he plays and his consistency. And I know how good he has been with the extra points too, and I think that overall, I think they said that kick was tipped. I saw the NFL saying something about that. But for him to get an extra point, not convert an extra point after like 4 years or something, and then Loop having a really incredible rookie year where he didn't miss inside 50. So for those things to happen, I kind of still view, they're excellent kickers in my opinion, but it can happen, So you just have to, it humbles you, and you have to just always make sure that you're paying attention to all the details and locking in.
Watching it and be like, I don't need to see that.
No, I don't mind seeing that, just because I learned from that too. When I have to be better at my craft, when guys that I respect a lot, like Loop and Boswell, if things don't go their way, it can happen to me too if I don't take care of all the details and then my focus and stuff. So I don't mind seeing those things. I don't want them to happen to anybody, but because I learned from it as well.
I love a lot of that, Grote. Number one, Cairo's the ultimate craftsman, and I've loved getting to know him over the last, it's been 6-7 years now that we've had the opportunity to be around him and watch him approach his job the way he does. He hasn't had the smoothest of seasons here. He knows that, but I really feel like he's in a really sharp mind frame going into this game. And when he talks about that Sunday night game last week that ends with the Pittsburgh kicker missing an extra point and the Baltimore kicker, having a season-ending field goal miss when he hadn't missed at that distance all year. It's a reminder, and he's aware of the stakes of this, but he seems really eager to go take this test. As we've talked about all week, it's a final exam for everyone. Kicker's a part of that.
I was thinking the same thing, too, about Kyro in terms of how long he's been here. This is his 6th year with the Bears, which makes him one of the longest tenured Bears. It puts him in that same boat as Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, whom I met, Kyler Gordon. So he's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of lose. He's seen all the bad. He knows where the bodies are buried at Hallis Hall, all that stuff. So we've been so happy for, at least I am, and I know you are too, for guys like Cole Kmet and James Johnson that you and I have covered and gotten to know a little bit. And it's the same with Kyro. So I'm really glad that you played that. Cairo Santos is, probably doesn't get enough credit because it's the nature of special teams. We just don't talk about these guys that much, but he's one of the most professional guys in that locker room.
Yeah, and he's a captain, right? He's a team captain, and he's handled a lot over the years, and he's been really good there. My last little sentiment before we kind of flip the page into the actual playoff game is I put out a tweet on Thursday, I think it was, saying I don't know how Saturday night's going to end. You don't know how it's going to end. We've put in our predictions. We're on opposite sides of the page there, but I will say that this locker room is filled with a lot of really good dudes who go about the whole thing the right way. They're about the right stuff. And so as we get to the end of the season, whether it ends Saturday night or whether it ends in a week or 2 or 3 or 4, I just wanted to express that. And I know you agree, walking around that locker room, there's a lot of really, really good dudes playing for this football team who have handled themselves really well through a memorable season. And that's important for guys like us that are out there all the time. And it's fun when you're able to be a part of the ride, when you're around guys that take this very seriously and handle themselves appropriately.
I couldn't have said it better. They've been super accommodating. We don't always say flattering things because we have to be honest about it. And it's not the easiest thing to do in the world, walking into a locker room after you know that you've been hopefully fairly critical. I say that to be fair in your critiques, make sure that you're able to back it up. And these players are completely professional about that. I'll never forget when it was DJ Moore, actually, several weeks ago. I said something to the effect of just like a blow off comment. I go, this is why, everybody hates the media or something like that. And he said, why would they hate you guys? I was like, I don't know, they think we're too critical. He's like, I don't think you guys are. So I didn't know whether I should have taken that as a shot. Maybe we need to be more critical, but just symbolic of the locker room. And the way that they are coached, they have been incredibly professional. And Lord knows, there are times when the last thing they want to do is talk to the media. And believe it or not, we understand that.
Hey, DJ, why does everyone hate the media?
What? So I think that's it. Anything else here, Dan, for this listen to this episode?
Win that battle and get the football thrown to you. What?
A little more from DJ there. No, I'm excited. I'm excited, Grote. I think you've heard it in my my voice all week. You don't get these opportunities very often in this town. It's been a lot of fun to climb to this stage, and I can't wait to put my car in reverse out of the garage, down the driveway, and start heading for Soldier Field on Saturday afternoon. Because I think once we get there, it's going to be just again, but 8-9 hours of just feeling it, right? Like you just want to feel this environment, and it's going to feel a certain kind of way all the way to the end.
Can't wait to see everybody. I'm sure a ton of our listeners will be out at Soldier Field. If not, we know that you will be locked down in your home or out at a bar. That's part of the fun of this, is the way people take in the game. So I hope that everybody has a blast watching it, and may we be talking about a second playoff game at least. I hope that is the case, because this is way too fun and way too enjoyable. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, and key important score contributor as well, for our executive producer, Adam Stadzinski, who put this all together for us. I am Mark Grote of 670 The Score, saying thank you so much for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.